Guys, Dricus just beat up Robert Whittaker. I'm still reeling about it. I do not know what is going to be next for Robert Whittaker. Israel Adesanya jumps into the cage, racially abuses Dricus. What is going to happen by September? My God. Let's talk about it, guys. So the fight. Let's start off with the fight, guys. Because now, online, there's plenty of people who are saying, yeah, we knew Dricus was going to win. Mate, if you go back and look at any MMA content coming into this weekend, no one was betting Dricus to win. Everyone was saying that Dricus is a very dangerous opponent, and the guy is dangerous, but they were all saying he's sloppy, Robbie's too technical for him. This was not a lucky win on behalf of Dricus. Like, Robbie looked good for the first 2.5 minutes of the first round, but then Dricus, ran through him and put it on him and beat Robert Whittaker up. He beat Robert Whittaker up. God. Dricus put it on him and beat Robert Whittaker up. I can't believe I'm saying that. And Whittaker looked shocked after the first round, really shocked. He took a minute to compose himself. His corner was asking him to reset. Then we get into the second round, and Dricus just attacks him like a fucking wild man. And this is it. This is the reality that we live in now. Dricus Du Plessis is a better UFC fighter than Robert Whittaker. And I don't care what you're saying now online in all the comment sections. You didn't know. You didn't know that this was going to happen. Nobody knew that this was going to happen. Otherwise, the odds wouldn't have been what they were. Israel Adesanya comes in, does what he does. Cringy. Don't care that he was drunk. Really not good form. But sets up a fucking promo here. That is a fight that is now going to be sold. That fight is going to be sold purely because of what Israel Adesanya did. The question is, though, that fight needs to get booked in for September. And Izzy is a hard man to fight. Let's give Izzy the respect that he deserves. He's a hard man to fight. But if we go back and look at some of these, I used to say, I don't even know if we can still say this anymore. You used to think that if someone doesn't attack Israel Adesanya and they just play that point scoring game with him on the outside, they're going to lose that fight. But when people do go in and attack Israel Adesanya, they get starched. They get knocked out. Izzy has got a great counterpunch. Pereira came in for the kill, ended up flat on his back. Costa, flat on his back. Whittaker, flat on his back in their first fight. So you don't want to rush in at Israel Adesanya, but if you don't rush in at Israel Adesanya, then he'll just point score and give you those little peppering shots from the outside. He is a MMA puzzle. The question is now, number one, we got a couple of questions because there are things are happening now. It is wild what happens in this sport, the difference that one day can make. On Saturday, it was, is Robert going to be healthy enough to fight Israel Adesanya in September? Now Robert's out of the picture. And what are we going to do with Robert? That's a whole other conversation. Now we've got Israel Adesanya, we've got September. What are we going to do now? And then not what are we going to do now? How are we going to get over the heartbreak as men of losing a brother in the field of Robert Whittaker? We need a moment we need a MMA funeral. I'm calling it this Wednesday online. # RIP Robert Whittaker. Just remember this. It's wild because it's it's only one loss. It's only one loss. But it's one loss in a man who had such a hard battle to get back to championship status. If Izzy isn't dethroned, it's going to be so hard for Robert to get back to championship status. It's almost going to be impossible because they don't want to rebook that Israel Adesanya Robert Whittaker fight. There's no money in that for them. They want to keep the division new, keep it moving forward. So if Izzy stays champ, it's going to be really, really hard for him. And then if Dricus is the champ, it's going to be really hard for him as well. He's going to need to get a couple of wins under his belt because Dricus just handled Robert. Still can't believe I'm saying it. So the first thing we need to address is Dricus going to be healthy enough to fight in September? That date is close. And if he is not going to be healthy enough to fight in September, I say we pull Dricus back and let Sean Strickland take that fight. I think Sean Strickland deserves a title shot. If he's healthy enough, he's healthy enough. I really believe now it comes down to which one is healthy enough to take on Israel Adesanya. Is it Sean Strickland or is it Dricus Du Plessis? They both clearly deserve it. There is money to be made for the UFC, so the UFC is going to enjoy that very much. And whoever is not as healthy goes down there as the backup fighter to cut the promo for the next fight. Because again, we're making crazy assumptions here. And this is the sport where we shouldn't be making crazy assumptions, but we're going to assume that Israel Adesanya wins those two fights. So you want whoever is the least healthiest out of those two to fly down to Australia, sit in the crowd, and cut another awesome promo. Maybe not as racially heated as the one that we just had. You know, let's just tone it back a bit. Let's just a touch. You know, there's no need to go that dark. That was grim. Okay, so you fly down there, cut another promo, we keep the division moving. And again, it is just wild how quickly things move. You know, after Israel Adesanya's last fight, we were all sort of talking about like, Izzy's lapped the division. What are we going to do next? And now, not, what is it, 3 months later, 4 months later, we've got two brand new contenders that are both waiting to get healthy, ready for Israel Adesanya. It's wild, man. We don't stay in one position for too long here. Robert Whittaker. The question is, and I've seen some people answer this, it should be Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland next as a comeback fight. I don't love it purely because we've got such a good situation with Israel Adesanya right now where there's two contenders that are perfectly placed to sell good pay-per-views and to make exciting fights. I think both of them pose a different challenge to Izzy. So I like that we've got Dricus and Sean. I don't want to see Sean Strickland versus Robert Whittaker. Couple of reasons. Number one, I still think Robert Whittaker can win that fight, but I don't think we move the division forward anyway. Like I said, it's going to be hard for Robert Whittaker to get himself another title shot where Sean Strickland is arguably already there. So I think we want to sort of protect that a little bit. I'm liking what we're seeing next for Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya. Like, whoever wins that is going to be pretty highly placed in the rankings. You know, Israel's going to have a bit of a Tai Tuivasa effect where he wins one of those fights that maybe he shouldn't have won and he gets boosted up the rankings. So I think while Robert has been injured and hurt, I mean, we don't know how much long-term damage he's going to sustain from that knockout. It was a bit of a knockout, but he did get beaten up on the ground a little bit. I think it's fair enough to say that Robert can take a couple of months off. He's not a bloke that fights often, even though he says he would like to. Unfortunately, he just doesn't fight often. So I think there's a bit of space here, guys, where like we can allow Paulo and Israel Adesanya to have their fight, and the winner of that takes a very high-ranked Robert Whittaker. And this is one of those classic UFC fights where you were very highly ranked, you're coming off a loss, here's a charging contender, let's have a go and see where you really lie. And that way, I think it sort of packages the entire division perfectly for the next 6 months to a year. You've got Israel Adesanya with two great contenders, two storylines, two good pay-per-views that the UFC can make money on. You've got a couple of contenders up and coming with this ex-rising star, with this ex-star, Robert Whittaker, who's coming off a loss, who needs a win, who needs to start rebuilding their career. There's a match right there. Like, the whole thing just sort of, it works out perfectly now. It's really, really interesting to see. And it's such a contrast to what just happened a couple of months ago, where again, we were just talking about like, what are we going to do with Izzy next? What are we going to do with him next? Well, now we know. Now that whole thing has just been sorted out. What do you think each contender's chances are against Israel Adesanya? I like Du Plessis' chance against Izzy. I think he's got that sort of like grit and that chin and the drive to just go straight at Izzy. But Izzy's also got the kind of drive now where he really wants to knock this dude out. And when Izzy is feeling it and wants to knock someone out, he can knock someone out. It's going to make it super, super exciting. Going into it early, like right now, I feel like Dricus can get it done, which is like, what am I saying? Why am I saying that? But I feel like Dricus can get it done. Let me know what you think down in the comments. How do you think Dricus would go against Izzy? Obviously, Izzy's like he's way more technical. He's way more technical. I feel like I'm speaking like, this is insane what I'm saying, but what do you think down in the comments? I think Dricus can get it done. I think he's the sort of guy that's got the the fight in the fight. Like, he is just going to barrel Izzy and steamroll at him. And Izzy is going to put a shot on him, and Izzy's going to rock him, and he's going to be down on the ground, and he's going to go for a single leg, and he's still going to try and drag Izzy down to the ground. And when he gets Izzy down on the ground, he's going to beat Izzy up. I can see that happening. And it all comes down to whether or not that shot that Izzy lands on him while he's doing his entry is the shot that puts him to sleep or the shot that keeps him awake. Because if it keeps him awake, Dricus is going to punish him. Punish him. Wow. Guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I like hearing from every single one of you. I get back to every single one of you. If you're enjoying the content around here, please maybe consider clicking that subscribe button. I'll see you all in the next video. Speak then.